All right, everybody, welcome to episode 5 of the Autodesk Eagle kind of introduction, super tutorial, whatever you want to call it. And on the previous one, we made a footprint for a test resistor. Where is that guy? Right here. Test resistor footprint and a test resistor symbol. The video before that. Oh, wait a second. That's not the one. Test resistor. Ah, there we go. There's our kind of weird looking symbol. And somebody pointed out that I made a mistake, and we are going to get to that. It's a considerable teachable moment. I'm glad that somebody was paying attention, pointed out the mistake. For now, I'm going to leave it alone and show you how it will impact me down the road. It can actually kind of be a bit of a trap. So let's get started. Today we're going to make the device. Now, the symbol and the footprint are useful, but not, they can't be used on their own. You have to put them together to make an actual device that you can use. So, sticking with our theme, we'll say add device. We're going to call it a test resistor. And then we're going to put at the end of it a dash star dash. Tell you what the dash star dash is if you stick around long enough. All right. So now we have a new space. This is where we're going to put our schematic symbol, and this is where we're going to put our package and get it all connected up. Essentially, you have to associate the pins of one on the pins of the other. So we'll go to this thing and say add part. And what they really mean by add part is add symbol. I'm not sure why they call it add part. I don't really care. That's not really what we're doing. Test. There it is, test resistor. So we're going to put this guy right in the center, and it gives us the option of putting as many as we want. We'll escape out of that and escape out of that. So we've got our symbol placed. Now the next thing we need to do is say, what package do we want to make that symbolic resistor? We want a real resistor, so we'll select new, add local package, and we're going to go find the one that we made earlier, the test resistor. QRST, there's test resistor, yay, and say OK. So now we have those two things on there, and this little exclamation point right here in the list is essentially Eagle's way of saying you're not connected. So we have to associate each pin on the symbology to the actual physical pad on this. So not surprisingly, we hit connect, and it brings up this window, and we have the pin names of the symbol over here and the pad names of the SMD layout right there. And all we have to do, there we go, make that a little bit smaller, make it easier. So we want to say, do we want to connect this one to this one, or we can connect this one to that one, or this one to that one. And when we're happy in a resistor, it simply doesn't matter. Later on, of course, it will. I want to say connect those two, and yes, connect those two. It puts them into the connected list on the right, and we'll say OK. So now that exclamation point turned into a very, very faint green check mark that's kind of hard to see. So we got the thing connected. Great. So now we want a prefix. When we put this thing in a schematic, we don't want our resistors to be called 1, 2, 3, 4. We want them to be R1, R2, R3, all that kind of stuff. So R is our prefix. That's the normal one. And value is Eagle's way of asking you, do you want to see the value displayed on your schematic or your board automatically? And sure, of course we want that. So that'll be great for today. And now this is technically a functional thing. We haven't put in a description. We haven't touched on technologies or attributes. There's a lot that I'm skipping over here, a whole lot that I'm skipping over here. But what I really want to do is just get to the part where we can create a schematic, because that's really where it gets fun. Back to the control panel, select, oh my God, what's wrong? New schematic. Alright, so now this is the schematic workspace over here. These are the sheets, and this is kind of where the schematic is going to go. And I'm going to skip quite a few steps just to kind of get to the fun part. We're going to select the Add Part button. and it pulls up this massive, these are a lot of libraries that come with it, including my own libraries. So they have this nice little search section down here, and it takes wildcards. If you don't know what wildcards are, ask me and I will explain it to you. But star, test, star, and enter, and it just tells me which things they test in them. So look, test resistor, miraculously at the top. There's our symbol, there's our footprint. It's there's no descriptions here where there would normally be, but we'll say OK, and there we are, there it is. So every time I click the mouse button, it's going to put one down, but I want them to be rotated. How do you do that? Right click, simple, and then left click and left click. Awesome. So now I don't want any more, so I'm just going to hit escape. Excellent. R1, R2, R3, R4. It automatically numbered them with the R prefix for us. So now let's add a value to it. Excellent. 50. So I'm just right clicking, selecting value, and this one will be 100. And right click and value, and this one will be 500. And right click value, this one will be 1K. Excellent. So now we have our values. So let's take a look at how this schematic will start looking on our board. So we simply hit this little button right here. It says SCH for schematic and board. When we click that for the very first time, it says we don't have a board yet. Do you want to make one? Yes. And Eagle opens up a new window, and the data for the board and the data for the schematic are completely separate files, but they're related. There's a they're synchronized. That's one of the things that the Eagle file does. So when I save this board, it actually saves the schematic, and when I save the schematic, it saves the board as well. So here are, this is a representation. This is the default board size, and here are our little parts. So we'll click on the little move button and move those over, and move this one over, and you rotate it just like you do in the schematic. So I'm left clicking to pick it up. Just one left click picks it up, and I can move it around. And when I right click, it'll rotate it, and when I left click again, it drops it down. So you can see the R1, 2, 3, 4 with the values. This is going great. This is going great so far. Pretty happy about it. All right, so back to here. So now we actually have to connect something with the schematic. Now let's see. I need to find there it is, the net button. I have my keyboard mapped out the wazoo, and I highly recommend you focus on keyboard mappings, because I rarely go over here and actually click buttons anymore. I use the keyboard for it. But anyway, that's a different discussion. So when I'm in the net mode and I hover over one of the electrical connections, you get that little green circle. That means that you can make the connection. And as I right click, it's picking different wire bend styles, so I can get the wire to bend the way I would like it to. So I'm just going to connect all of this up. Great. So now we actually have a circuit. Not a very useful one, but it is a, don't want to save it. Not a very useful one, but we do have a circuit. So when we go back to our board, now we can see these things called air wires, getting everything. This is a representation of how things need to be connected. But clearly, the way things have to cross, that's going to be kind of a pain to route it. So if I click on the move and kind of figure out, where do we want this to go? I think this one wants to go there, and this one wants to go there, and this one probably wants to go up here. This one wants to go, oh, look at that. So now, if the air wires don't cross, that means it's going to be really easy to route. So now, these air wires don't actually do anything. That's why they're called air wires. We want to actually connect copper. And the copper, if we look on our layers, top, that's actually referring to a copper layer, the red one. So we'll go over here to the route button. There's a lot of things to choose from, but width is the one I'm going to focus on. We want it to be a little bit wider, 12 mils in this case. So I'll click on this pad, and now you see the whole net lights up, the air wire and the pads that it connects to, and I will work my way through the routing. Now we're going to go over routing in detail later, so this isn't really a routing lesson at all. We're still kind of on the library topic, and I want to cram through this because there's the person that pointed out that it made a mistake. This is where we're about to find it. So say we got our circuit board laid out and we kind of like it, and we definitely want R1 and R2 to be printed on our circuit board, but we really don't want the values because those can change on the circuit board. So let's go to the layer settings and see what it looks like without those things. So we'll go over here to the top layer values, T values. Let's turn that off. Oh, wait a second. But they're not turning off. Let's turn off the top names. Well, that's not turning off either. Oh my God. Top place. Oh, wait a second. All of those things got on I put them on the same layer, top place. What a bummer. Anyway, no big deal. We can right click on this and say, open the footprint. There's our footprint. This is where we were earlier. So I can right click on name and say properties. And we don't want that to be we don't want the name to be in top place. We want it to be in top names. Excellent. Hang on. There we go. We want value is that's also in top place. We want that to be in top values, which is right here, layer 27. Excellent. Now we got the layers all fixed up. Let's save it, and when we go back, nothing will have changed at this point until we go to this little library menu and say update. Perfect. The library update has modified the board. Great, we got the update. So now we'll go back to here and say, hey, wait a second. It still doesn't work. What happened? This is the trap. When you change that at that level in Eagle, it doesn't flow through on the updates. So if you had made this mistake and you had routed the board with 150 resistors, you're in kind of a pinch, unfortunately. So the only way to fix this, we actually have to replace the dumb resistor. So if you notice here, if I add the exact same resistor but new ones, come on, still got the test in there. Pick the exact same resistor, but this one has the updates in it. Let's give this one a value of 10, and this one right-clicking value of 600. And don't want to save it. Go back to the board, and it puts new parts at the bottom. That's normal. So we'll pick this one up and move it over. I'm just hitting the move button. So these ones have the same things, but when I go to the layers now and I turn off top values, look what happens. The values on the new ones turn on and off. We love that, but the old ones don't. So this can be a major trap. I showed you how to fix it, but really you need to do this stuff correctly in the first place. I'm glad that mistake was caught. So that's kind of basically how we get the parts together. We got it on the schematic. I got to show you a little bit about why you need to pay attention to some of these details early on, because down the road, when you're least expecting it, when you think you're about to submit your board, you realize that you've got some issues with the layers, and it's just kind of a goofy or difficult or challenging task to go back and fix some of those things. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We're going to get kind of move on to some more overviewish kind of stuff on episode 6, so stick around. Hope to see ya.